Welcome to the Legendary Leadership Summit 2019 with Cody, Dakota, Wooten.
And with us right now, we have the wonderful and amazing Lalita Appling Plummer. Now, Lalita, she's got 23 years of experience in the public safety industry. She's experienced policy and audit team leader, and she's been a coordinator with an emphasis in victim services and the public safety industry. She's skilled in nonprofit organizations, victim advocacy program evaluation, and so much more. She's got a PhD in psychology from Wooten University and a master's of science in mental health counseling. And she's the co-founder of JCA Leadership Consulting, LLC. Lalita, welcome to the Legendary Leadership Summit.
Well, good morning, and thank you very much.
Good morning, definitely. I'm so excited to have you here with us today.
Let me just start by saying I did catch your part last night that you did, and it was awesome. It was fabulous.
Thank you. You know how to make a guy blush. Oh my goodness. So, Lalita, tell us what it is you do day to day.
Oh, day to day. Okay, so I actually work for the Georgia Department of Juvenile Justice. And like you said earlier, I have over 23 years of experience doing that. And actually right now I'm in transition because I'm moving from our victim services unit to our audit unit. So I will be a compliance team leader. And so right now I'm kind of in the minutia of things. I'm just really doing a lot of detail work, making sure that we have all of our audit pieces together and that our team is all on the same page with everything. And so I'm still also doing victim services because I was actually a couple of team members down before I left.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Definitely need help there then.
So I'm kind of doing a little bit of both. And I'm actually enjoying it. It's wonderful to stay busy. It's wonderful to just be able to just make a difference in all the different areas of our organization. And then, of course, JC2A, our personal business, it has like all of a sudden it's crazy when you start getting busy in one area of your life, another area starts picking up. And so that's one of the things that has started to pick up as well. I think I've had speaking engagements for the last 3 weekends. So it's been crazy, but it is a wonderful, wonderful kind of busy.
Absolutely, no doubts there. And I feel like that's a recurring theme that happens for anybody who's finding opportunity. It's like once one piece of opportunity finds you, suddenly you find another one and then another one, and then it's like the opportunities just don't stop coming.
Exactly, yes. Definitely.
Awesome. So tell me more about what you do with JC2A then.
Okay, so we are a business and we do leadership, but we're also we have a major training component that we also do. And so what we do is we actually cater our trainings to what our client wants, because you have to know who you're with and who you're speaking to, who you are training to. You need to know all of these pieces so that you can give them the best presentation that you can give them. And just give you an example, last weekend we did a group of girls. Our presentation was for a group of girls, and it was probably about 40 girls ages 12 to 18. And we spoke on human trafficking, and we actually wanted to know specifically who was in the group, and we got all this information of who's in the group, what is their skill level, what do they already know about human trafficking, because the thing we want to do is we want to bring them something new and fresh, and we want to bring them great things that can help keep them safe in the community, in their lives, help keep their friends safe. And so that's one of the things that we always make sure that we do, because we want to not only we want to establish people, businesses, organizations. We want to equip people with the right information to be sure that they can go forth and be successful in their lives. And then we want to empower people to be able to have the confidence to do that as well. And so we are an organization, we will stay with our clients through the entire process to make sure that they're getting everything that they need.
Absolutely. And I think what all you're saying in that is so important to creating reproducible monumental results, because it starts with what information do you have and what information do you need to create the results? Because so often within leadership, there's a lot of information that people are missing. Exactly. And if you want a team to be able to create those results, you need to make sure the different members of the team have an understanding of what they need to know in order to be able to produce the results you're looking for.
Exactly. And one of the things that we do at JC2A, because it's 4 of us, right? And everybody brings a different type of skill set, even though we've all been in government for 20 plus years, but we all bring a different type of skill set. And so we actually have one member, she's actually a curriculum creator. And so that's what, that's her strong point for us, And then we have one of our team members that she does a lot of weapons safety, just physical, personal safety. And she does that. And so she's actually brought to us a client, and that we have put together a program for them that we're scheduled in September, the latter part of September, to take to them a active shooter course.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, I mean, our group is so diverse. We also have a person that their skill set is financial wellness, and she does a beautiful job with it. And that's one of the things that makes us we're actually unique from a lot of other leadership consulting businesses, because we do have such diverse backgrounds between us all. And, because I bring the victim services pieces, as I was talking to earlier. And, but we all have that piece that we bring to the team. And that's what makes us good at what we do, because we're able to feed off of each other. Because even once we have completed an activity, once we've completed a presentation, we all get back together and we talk about what we did, how we felt like the reaction was from the individuals in the audience. And then we also make sure that we just kind of break it down and we talk about what can make it better next time. And we keep all of these meeting minutes so that we know that when the next time someone comes along that wants to utilize our services, then we are able to bring out all of the other, what we learned from our other presentations, and move forward with that.
Absolutely. And so what I'm hearing in there is that you've created a team and you recognize each other's strengths.
Yeah.
That's part of what creates the results. Another piece of it is the reflection piece. It's that once you get into a scenario, whether it goes perfectly or it goes with a lot of glitches, you come back at the end of the day and say, what happened? What is it that made this occur? And then what can we do to make it better? And it's in those two pieces that allow you to continue to create new results. And you keep records of it, so that whenever you're going into the future, you can always go back to it and say, this is what happened before. This is what we said we were going to change. So this is how we're going to play the game now.
Right. And that also helps us, that helps us to make sure that we're staying relevant in what's going on. And, relevance that's one of the major pieces of sustainability, Because if you continue doing the same thing over and over and over again, people don't really want to hear what you have to say. So that is so important. And we recognize that from just because each one of us have been, like I said, in government, in different portions of the government for over 20 years. And so the thing that we bring to the table is a lot of different type of supervisory and leadership skills. We've had, if we start to even discuss the types of trainings, the number of trainings, we don't even have time for that today. But it's just being able to bring the information from each of those trainings and put them into what we're doing to make sure that we are remaining relevant and that we are giving our customers the best of us.
Absolutely. And I think that is a part of where a lot of businesses and organizations end up failing, is in that relevancy, because they create something, they think it is the master thing of all things, and they decide never to change it and never decide to get better. And then someone else comes along with a new strategy, a new product, a new service that completely puts that thing completely out of business. That's what happened with Blockbuster. They thought they had the ultimate movie industry business, and what happened? Netflix came along. Same thing happened with and I just forgot his name, the guy who created the automobile, really able to get things going fast. Yes, Ford. Ford created the Model A, and he didn't want to change it. He had it set, and he thought it was the best vehicle in the world, and he ended up losing his business and kind of going mad in the process.
I can imagine. Yeah, that would be kind of difficult. And so, yeah, you're exactly right. We don't ever want to become stale in what we're doing, and we don't ever want to think that we've learned it all and that we know it all. We continuously research. We continuously make sure that we are we're listening to other people as well. You know, we're seeing what's out there. And because just like you said about Blockbuster, they saw Netflix come in, but they didn't seem to be concerned about Netflix. So when you see someone like that come into your business, your next thing is, okay, we need to move to the next level. And we need to determine what it is that we can do to match that. So yeah, that is so important.
Absolutely. And going along the same track, sometimes it's not necessarily that the information has to change, but the way it's presented has to change. And I'm sure you could comment on that.
Oh yeah, definitely. You know, I remember when I first started teaching at the college level, we were still using overhead projectors. And right at that time, and I remember before I stopped teaching on ground, we had started moving from overhead projectors to PowerPoint and to those type things. And so one of the things is that we have to stay, like I said, we have to stay on top of this, because it's kind of interesting that even having this opportunity today in this platform, because that's one of the things that we talked about at the beginning of the year that we're going to have in place before the end of the year, is to make sure that we are taking our trainings, taking our presentations to the online community, rather than just having everything be in person. And so this has been a great opportunity for us to be able to just kind of explore Zoom a little bit, to explore this whole platform, because this is what we were talking about when we got with our tech person and was like, okay, tell us how we're going to take these presentations and we're going to be able to offer them online. And so this has been a wonderful experience working with you on this project.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And definitely Zoom is this is a perfect example, because I hadn't used Zoom Webinar before this summit. I've used Zoom Meetings before, which is a slightly different product within the Zoom catalog of things. But there's a big difference between the meeting and the way the webinars function. And then there's also a difference between doing a one-day webinar and a multi-day webinar. And so there's been plenty of learning opportunities for me as well. And this is the way that things are moving within our industry. And so if I don't know how these things work, then how can I keep up with all the competitors that I have?
Exactly.
You can't in the long run. And I don't know about you, but I'm not about to become Blockbuster.
Oh, no, definitely don't want to do that, because one of the things about this bit about our JC2A business, because we're all, over 20 years in our respective areas, we're all looking at retirement, and so we're thinking, okay, it's time to transition to something else because we're not ready to stop yet. So that's one of the major things, is just being able to transition and to be able to continue to do what we love to do.
Exactly. And there are some people who don't believe in the concept of retirement out there. They say once you find things that you love doing, why would you retire, right?
Exactly. Right.
Now that doesn't mean that you don't figure out a new way to do things, because if you do things the same way, it could get exhausting over the long time. You see this like with sports, in the sports industry. People love the sport they play. However, the human physiology at some point tends to break down. And so they can't play that sport for the rest of their lives till they die. However, that doesn't mean they can't have an impact in that sport. And they transition to broadcasting for the sport, or to coaching for the sport, or some other function within the sport, so that they can maintain and stay within that same industry, but they're changing and adapting to how they can fit into it.
Right. And so, that's one of the things. And actually, I was telling you about one of our partners that she does the financial piece of ours. That's her main area that makes her unique to our group. And so what she brought to us at the end of last year, this book, The Four Obsessions of Extraordinary, that is Patrick Leone.
Okay, yeah, love Patrick Lencioni. I haven't read that one specifically, but I've got 5 Dysfunctions of a Team right here, which has influenced my work.
Exactly. And we did that, that one, the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team, we did that one through our work organization, so we had a lot of those. But this 4 Obsessions of Extraordinary Leaders, it speaks to sustainability. It speaks to what you're going to do to broaden your perspective, to be able to remain relevant, because you don't want to be a Ford or a Blockbuster, because we want to keep moving forward. We want to keep leveling up. And in order to do that, we have to keep growing.
Absolutely. And that's such an interesting word that you used within all that, sustainability. Mm-hmm. Because that's another challenge that a lot of people run into when they're creating businesses, when they're driving their teams, is the work they're doing sustainable? And so often it's not. They end up driving themselves into the ground, not because they don't do good work, but because they're going at paces that are completely unsustainable. And because of that unsustainability, they end up destroying their teams, which prevents them from getting reproducible, monumental results.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. As you were talking about that, I was just thinking, because what we hear so often, especially when we go into companies that are trying to get some change and get some momentum, people want to continue. Well, that's the way we've always done it. And then even once we kind of convince them a little bit that they need to change, they need to do something different, then they just want to retweak what they've always been doing. And so, that's one of those things that we have to get out of that. We have got to get out of that mindset. Okay, well, we can just change what we've always done just a little bit, and that'll be different, and that'll be a change. And we all know that if you continue to do the same thing over again, expecting another result, We all know that's insanity, right? So yeah, it's very interesting to be able to speak with people on that level, to be able to talk to them about, okay, let's think way outside the box. Okay. And we take them to the point we're like, okay, we're not even going to discuss your budget right now. We're not going to discuss a budget. What we're going to think about is not having a budget, because we have unlimited resources. And if you had unlimited resources, what is it that you could do to make this company, or this your area of the company, go to another level? And then once we can get them to talking on that level, thinking on that level, then we actually use what we call a mind map. And we use that to be able to just let them throw all those ideas out there. And then we start talking about, okay, so what is the cause of this, and what is the cause of this particular area that you're having a problem in? And then we're able to whittle that all the way down for them, and then give them something that is a sustainable change.
Absolutely. And within that, the method that you used with that, I think is an extremely powerful method, because what it taps into is creativity. And so often we limit our creativity as leaders, and in limiting that creativity, it doesn't allow us to see the possible futures. We see one path and we say, like, this is the only path. And then there's like a mountain in the middle of that path, and you're like, I can just climb the mountain. It's okay, right? But like, you can't, because you went on the path thinking that it was just going to be a flat path. So you don't have any climbing gear. You just have your hands and your feet, and you don't have food to get you to the other side of the mountain. However, when you tap into that creativity, what typically happens is you start to look around at everything that you could do instead of trying to go over the mountain. And all of a sudden you see there's like 20 other paths.
Right.
And you see that there's this one path that's completely flat, and it has multiple towns along the way, so you can restock on supplies and whatnot as you go down it.
Right.
And instead of trying to tackle a mountain that you can't overcome anyways, in order to get the results you're looking for and make them reproducible, easy results, you just take a different path.
Exactly. Right. And so that's one of the things, and we have found that works so much better. And we actually started using that in our training area in our Department of Juvenile Justice here in Georgia. And we started using that because we were our training department was tasked with developing what they call a sergeant's academy. And so that's kind of like our mid-management people, that sometimes they get stuck in that route of thinking that we don't really have a voice. And so, but they're the people on the ground. And so they are the people that, and so one of the things that I like to talk to them about is that, okay, so we're going to talk about affecting change right where you are. Because we know there's some things, yes, you got to have a whole bunch of signatures to get some things done, right? But there are some things that we can affect change at right where we are. And so that's one of the other pieces that we also use, even in, it's one of those wonderful transferable skills that you learn, and it just moves from one area of your life to another area of your life. And so transferable skills are awesome. And if if we could get people to understand that those, first of all, recognize what those transferable skills are. Because some people don't even realize it. Because if you have a lieutenant that runs a shift, or if you have a shift leader in a company and they run a shift, but they really don't think of themselves as being an important person, right? But if you're running the shift, you're influencing people. Because if you're not influencing, then your shift's not running well. And so that's one of the things that we try to get them to understand as well. And so just being able to understand that you can affect change right where you are. And so that, that's one of those things that it goes over and over again. It doesn't matter whether we're talking about Department of Juvenile Justice, a local city, a local county government. It just transfers everywhere.
Absolutely. And what I'm hearing in that is the people who are a part of your team have to be empowered. And you, as the leader, have to empower them. Because when you don't empower them, they aren't able to create reproducible monumental results. They have to know they do have a voice. And along with that, the other thing that I was hearing in there is that sometimes the biggest changes you can affect don't look like monumental results. They're just little things. However, when you affect the little things day to day to day, all of a sudden, by impacting the things you are able to right then, you have created reproducible monumental results.
Exactly. And so that is one of the major pieces that we use, because, and that's, that's our tagline, we establish, we equip, and we empower. And so every time we do a presentation, we help them, what our goal is to, help them establish goals, help them establish, what it is that they want changed. And then we equip them with the information, the knowledge, the skills. We equip them with those things in order to move forward and what they're working on. And then, of course, once they're equipped, and we continue to empower them, because we want them to know that, they are valuable and that everybody has a piece. And so we know that when we establish, we equip, and we empower, that we influence, we impact, and then we're able to change. And so we understand that. And this has just been a wonderful trip for us. It's been a wonderful place for us to be able to just move in and just to see, because it's wonderful when you finish a presentation and people come up and talk to you about it, and they're like, I never thought about that, or this has been a wonderful, thank you for saying that, because I've been thinking this for a long time and I never said it. And so those are the things that really, that's what pumps us up, and that's what keeps us moving forward.
Absolutely. I loved all of that. That was all just, and that's so needed in the world right now, is to people to feel like that. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah. Because when you go into places that you see, and because most of the people that we present with and talk with, there are people that are looking for, they're like, okay, we need a change and we need you to help us move forward with this. Or we had this goal and we could not move the goal to the next level. And so one of our things that we do is, like I said, we use that mind map. We use that mind map all the time, because it gives them a visual, and they're able to look at it, they're able to see it, then they're able to connect the dots, and they're able to see for themselves, okay, that's where we're stagnant, or this is where we need to move forward, and we might need to just drop that piece altogether. And so that visual piece is so good for them to be able to utilize, so that they can, for their own selves, be able to just, move forward and get change. And so when people feel like they're stagnated, they start to look like they're stagnated. They start to, they get this whole piece in about, I'm not sure if I want to stay in this business. I'm not sure if this is the right place for me. I might need to find a whole nother career, and people start thinking like that. But if we can open their eyes and show them where, okay, we just need some creativity. We just need to be able to look at this and see what the real problem is, and just defining problems. Oh my gosh, that is awesome. So, yeah.
Exactly. No, and that, like, in order to create the reproducible monumental results, you have to know what the problems are. Exactly. And if you don't know what those problems are, you're not going to be able to create any results.
Exactly.
Because it's like you have a bucket of water, right? And you're trying to put water into it and fill it up to the top. However, you have a bunch of holes at the bottom of the bucket.
Right.
And so all of a sudden you're like, why is the water not getting any higher? And you feel like, I keep putting all this energy into it. I keep putting all this work into it, and it's not getting any higher. What am I doing wrong? And if you don't look and say, oh, it's not that I'm doing something wrong by putting more energy into it. It's that I need to fix these leaks.
Exactly.
Right? Then you feel disempowered. You feel like my work doesn't mean anything. You feel like I'm no good at what I do. You feel like, why am I even here? Right? And because you haven't analyzed, you haven't actually understood what's going wrong, you're not able to create results. And you focus on that. And where your focus goes, you tend to find more of. And so because you focus on all the negativity, you find more negativity.
Exactly. And that's one of the major things. And so that empowerment piece, once we finally get to the empowerment piece, that's where we really start talking to them about, okay, we're not going to stay right here, because what we want you to do is to continue to grow. And so we want you to start looking at what your plan is to grow. What is it that you're going to, we're not really into the 5-year, 10-year plan, because we want them to look at what's going on right now, because that's the piece that they have to understand. Because one of the things is that you want to, as John Maxwell would say, you want the big mo, right? And so you want that momentum, and you want it to be forward moving. And so the best way to do that, because you don't want to get stagnated. And how do we get stagnated? We go, oh, we got the best plan. And then we take that plan and we work that plan and work that plan and work that plan and work that plan until we've worked it down to a nub. And so it's time to start looking at some other areas and start looking at, okay, what's the next level? And so we always want people to be looking at what's the next level, because I want to be able to level up, because I don't want to get back in that trap of feeling disempowered. So I want to be able to move forward. And so that's one of the major pieces. And when we finally get to that end result and that empowerment piece and start talking to them about, don't stop here, you want to keep going. And then we actually offer a piece where we just go back and we kind of check in with them. We're like, okay, how's it going? Where are you at? Are you stuck? Do you feel like you're stuck? And they may not be stuck. They just might feel like they're not moving as fast as they want to move. But yeah, so all of those pieces are so important.
Definitely. And within that, one of the things that I'm hearing is that, especially with like the 5-year, 10-year plan, that's great if you're a high-level leader and you know how the pieces fit together and where they're headed to. And that's really important for the legendary leader to understand.
Right.
However, not everybody can think like that. And some people get completely overwhelmed when they're trying to think like that. And so when you're working with other people who are a part of your team, it's not always the best path to show them what the 10-year or 20-year or 50-year plan is. Sometimes you just have to help them see what the 1-year plan is for them.
Right.
You've got to meet them where they are right now. And in meeting them where they are at here today, they can learn over time, oh, okay, now I see today gets me to the 1 year, and then I can begin to see how the 1 year gets me to the 5-year, and the 5-year gets me to the 10-year. But if I can't even see what next week looks like, and I try to figure out what 10 years looks like, I don't even know where I'm starting.
Yes. And so, yes, so that is so important, because, and one of the things that you said, as legendary leaders, we see that, because, when you go into leadership meetings and they give you that wonderful analogy, is like, if you were a car, what part of the car would you be, And my thing was always, that I'm the windshield, because I need to look at the big picture. I need to see everybody. And so when I see a picture of my team together, I'm looking at the entire team. Whereas we have to remember as leaders, we have to remember that the team, when they look at the picture, they're looking at themselves to see what they look like. And so what my goal has been, especially with the teams that I have led, is to make sure that I remember that I want everyone to see the big picture. Because my thing is that if each individual team member grows, then the team grows. And so that is the piece that we have to look at, because if I have a team member and they're working in their strength and that's all they ever want to work in, then they can't grow. And so one of the things is to make sure that we're growing our people. Because, we get to, you don't want to get to a certain level and think, okay, I've arrived and I'm done. And so, but what we want to do is we want to pull people up with us and make sure, help them to be able to see the big picture so that they can move on and lead a team as well. And so that is the piece that is so important for us, So that is, and that helps once again with the sustainability, because if you're growing your team and your team is growing, they're going to want to stay there. They're going to want to keep moving forward. Because my other piece that I tell people all the time, especially in my day-to-day job, I don't come here to stay in this position forever. So what I'm looking at is I'm looking to see who's going to take my place. And so that is so important. And in order to do that, I need to be looking at what their strengths, what their weaknesses are, and I need to be building on what they need and helping them to move forward as well. So that is so important as a, like you said, as a legendary leader. We see the big picture, but we want to also make sure that we're helping other people to see the big picture as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, because when your team can't see the big picture, they can't really understand how they contribute to everything, and they can't understand how those contributions end up impacting that bigger future. Right. And so you have to make sure they do end up seeing it, maybe not all of it right away, but to a point where they can understand it and it makes sense to them and it makes them feel empowered. And along with that, you have to be developing everybody on your team over time. Right. That's part of the reproducible monumental results as well. It's not just about finding that one place and staying there. It's about finding that place and continuing to grow.
Right.
And eventually, if you want to be able to do bigger things as a leader, right, you need more leaders, because there's only so many people we can really take full charge of that are within our power to do, because we're humans. We're not infinitely powerful. As interesting as that would be, it's just not the reality we live in. And so if you want to be able to create monumental results, period, and that's not even reproducible yet, that's just monumental results, you need more leaders on your team, which means you need more people to be developing so they can become leaders.
Exactly. And so that is so important. And that kind of goes along with the law of the lid and the the 21 irrefutable law.
Yeah, but say it anyways.
The law of the lid, because if I'm staying for myself, if I'm staying at an 8, then no one under me can move past the 7. And so if my leadership ability is stagnant, then I'm stagnating the people under me. And so my thing is that, I always want to continually tell people, even if you have a job opportunity somewhere else, because I did recently have one of my team members in my unit. She came to me and she's like, I just got this opportunity for this job to move over to the other department, and I just don't want you to think it's you. And I said, I don't think it's me. I said, I'm fine. I said, because that's my job, is to develop people. Because if you're not growing, then I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Yes, we have a goal in our unit, and then we have certain tasks that we have to to accomplish, but we also, as leaders, one of my number one goals is to help you become a leader, help you move forward. So it's, to me, when my team, they start moving up and moving out, I am proud, because I'm like, yes, I was able to help them do that and didn't make them feel like that they couldn't. And so that's what's important, because I've seen areas where people felt like, if I leave, this whole thing is going to fall apart. Or if I leave, what's going to happen to me, or what's going to happen to the other team members, And so that's the piece that is so important. And then I also don't want people to feel like that they can't leave. I don't want them to feel that either, because I'm like, never get so attached to a person that you can't leave. And so that's one of the other pieces as well.
Exactly. And that's part of sustainability. That's part of creating reproducible monumental results. If you have someone who is the sole focus of that job, and there is nobody that can do any piece of what they can do, as soon as anything happens to that person, they leave the organization, they get sick, God forbid they die, right? If any of that ever happens, all of a sudden you have a broken piece of your system that you're trying to create that can collapse everything.
Right.
And you can't create reproducible results with that. And so you have to make sure that as you grow people, they have the ability to fill in other portions. Right. Because as soon as someone leaves for whatever purpose, you need to make sure that someone can jump right in and nothing changes. That's part of the reproducible.
Exactly. And that, that the whole cross-training piece, because I actually had an opportunity, I'm actually onboarding a staff member right now. And that was one of the things that I literally said to him the other day, as I said, this is something that I do, but I'm going to show you this. I'm going to give you all the information you need, because I never want anybody to think that I'm the only one that can do this. And so, because my other thing is that when I'm not here, I want to know that my unit is running and it's doing what it's supposed to do. And I don't have to worry about people calling me while I'm on vacation, or trying, having to deal with other personal matters, and people calling me going, well, what about this? And what about that? And what about, I want to know that my team is working and they're moving. They don't miss a step when I'm not there. Now they miss me, but they don't miss a step, when I'm not there, because I want everybody to know how to operate, and all of the operating systems that we do as far as technology is concerned. I want them to know basically pretty much everything that I do, so that, hey, if I get that wonderful opportunity one day to just be like, okay, I'm done. I'm done here because I'm moving over here to do this. I want them to be able to just kind of pick it up and keep moving without everybody going, oh my God, how you do this? How do you do that? So that is
exactly. And there's two things I hear within all of that. The first thing that I want to touch on is so many people in leadership positions fear bringing more people up, because they fear that if they do that, they're going to end up being out of a job, or someone's going to take over for them, or whatever other thing. And what happens after that? However, what actually ends up happening is that you prevent yourself from being able to attain any other opportunities. If no one else can do what you do, you can never move up and do something else. You can never go out and do anything else, which ties into the second piece of what I noticed in there, which is, if you want to be a legendary leader, there's going to be periods of time where you're 100% off, and periods of time where you're 100% on. If you're 100% on all of the time, you end up burning out. You can't continue to create monumental results. And so if you go on vacation and people are calling you the entire time you're on vacation, and you're on emails the entire time you're on vacation, it's not a vacation at all. And so you're not getting that recharge that you need. And the same thing happens when we come home at night. So many people have their laptop out, they're on the computer, they get into the bed, they're still on their phone, checking emails, sending messages out, and there's no recharge period.
Right.
And when you do that, you burn yourself completely out and you stop being able to create results.
Exactly. And so, yeah, that is one of the things. And, one of the other thing that I have noticed over time is watching other people, that the way that they run their areas, and I've
Mhm.
seen some people that they do it and they do it well. And those are the people that, I'm like, oh, I like that idea. I think I'm going to use that, because one of my things is that I have to know myself as well. And so I can myself get tunnel vision sometimes. And I forget about, sometimes if I'm not careful, I forget about the people. So I have to tell them, I'm like, listen, guys, because we're all in different areas of the state. And so I tell them all the time, I'm like, okay, I will email you and email you and email you, but sometimes we just need to stop and pick up the phone and we need to talk to each other, or we might need to literally Skype, so we can see each other's faces, so we can talk to each other. And then we have times when we're like, this requires a meeting for all of us to come together and we need to be in the same room at the same time. And so that's one of those things that is so important. But I have watched other leaders in our area, that micromanaging piece,
Mm-hmm.
and I've seen, like, I literally saw another person in our organization one time, literally because the team was they were all going to travel to one specific area. And this leader literally sent out an email with instructions on who was to ride with who and what car, what time they were leaving, all of it. And I was just like, oh my goodness, But then what I noticed is that when that leader left, that team, they were having a very hard time functioning. And I noticed and I thought, oh my goodness, that is horrible, because now they're waiting on someone to tell them what to do when they know what to do, because they've been doing the work, but they've been told over and over and over how to do it a specific way. And so that to me was so eye-opening. And I thought I didn't even really realize that we had people in leadership positions that still operate that way. So it was very interesting to watch the phenomenon of that. And that teaches you, you can learn from bad leaders as well as you can learn from good leaders. And I've had some bad ones and I've had some really good ones. And I have learned from all of them. So yeah, that is so important, about just empowering your team to do what you can do.
Absolutely. And I think that a lot of times it's the things that are failure and the things that are bad where we end up learning the best lessons.
Yeah.
It's through those failures, whether it's our own or someone else's, that we're able to actually pick up the best lessons that serve us the best. So you see when someone is micromanaging and they tell everyone exactly what to do, this is the result of it. Oh, if I do that, that's the result I'm going to get. And I don't like that result. So I need to figure out something different.
Right. Exactly. Because that was kind of disheartening to watch that team, the way that once that person started moving away, that leader started moving away from that team, and then the leader was even like, well, you guys have been doing this all this time. Why can't you do it? And they were just kind of looking at each other like, well, and so that is so important, because we need to, let each other know as well, because I wish, now looking back at it, that would have been a great teaching opportunity, but you can't always approach everybody, but to just have a conversation with that leader and be like, hey, one of the reasons they can't do it is because they haven't had to do it. They've not been given an opportunity to do it. And, that's always a slippery slope when you have to talk to somebody about their about their methods, so you have to be really careful about that. But that's one of the major things that I have learned, even with working with JC2A, is learning how to approach those very delicate conversations, to let people know, okay, if you keep telling your team how to do every single thing, they're never going to figure it out for themselves, And so that's one of those other pieces that, in order for us to make sure that we have the sustainability, we have to keep the team moving, whether we're here or not. Because just like you said, we don't know what's promised for tomorrow. And so we have to make sure that our teams are operating in the manner that we would theoretically like to see them. Because I don't think any leader really intends to stifle their people. I don't think they do that on purpose, but probably because history, has taught them that, okay, if I don't tell them, then they're not going to do it. And
Absolutely.
So that's one of those major pieces that we have to be so aware of.
Absolutely. Just that last little piece that you said right there reminds me of this book, Outwitting the Devil, which is one of my favorite books by Napoleon Hill. Everyone talks about Think and Grow Rich. I think this one's better. That's my personal opinion. But
check that one out.
Yeah, but what he talks about in this book is how people get into cycles, basically. And once they start in the cycle, whether the cycle started before them, and so it's preconceived ideas, or it's just they don't know any other way, they continue that cycle over and over again. And a lot of times, unfortunately, those cycles are bad. And so one bad cycle creates another bad cycle, creates another bad cycle, and it's like a whirlpool. And over time, it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And so that's kind of what it sounded like was happening for that leader. They didn't realize that what they were doing was creating that result, but they kept doing it and they kept doing it and they kept doing it to the point where their team wasn't able to get out of the whirlpool easily. When they were told, like, you've been doing this, you could do it yourself, you know what it is, why aren't you doing it? They didn't know because they'd been in this whirlpool for so long.
Right.
And they had to ask questions that they hadn't been asking. Can we actually do it on our own? Right? Is it a possibility to do on our own? Do we actually know what it is we're supposed to be doing? And the answers were yes. They had been doing it long enough that they knew. Yes, they could do it on their own, but they were so used to this cycle that had been repeating over and over again that it just didn't occur to them that it was a possibility. And part of that delves into the expectations, right? The expectation that the creator, or that the leader had created, was that the leader was always going to tell them what to do and when to do it. That was the expectation that they created unintentionally, but it was the expectation created over and over again. And so what they were expecting was a leader to tell them exactly what to do. And once that expectation was lifted, they didn't know what to do.
Right. Exactly. And so that was so, one of those, that was so, just like I said earlier, it was so disheartening, because then other leaders had to step in and be like, okay, well, wait a minute, let's break this down. Let's talk about tell me what it is that you guys do, because everybody, we need to be able to move from department to department and understand what everybody does. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But just having the opportunity to come in and just kind of help them, empower them to make decisions, because they had the answers.
Exactly.
They've been given the answer over and over and over again. They were just waiting on somebody to tell them. And so they really just needed to be empowered to be able to make those decisions. So that was so important.
Absolutely. Now, another thing that you touched on within that story that I'd like to delve into further is conflict. Because what you're saying is that when you see somebody who is doing something that could create challenges for themselves, within that, you want to be able to approach them and help them overcome it. However, you don't want to be accusatory and pointing the finger and saying, like, you're doing this wrong, because then that can create a whole nother type of conflict. However, if you don't do anything at the same time, it never gets resolved.
Right.
So how is it that you and your organization goes about going through that conflict so you can create better results?
Okay, so one of the major things is, of course, we quarterly, we go in, we have what we call checkpoints. We go in, we have talks with our staff. We have meetings where we come together and we really just kind of talk about what happened, what did we do really well, what didn't go over so well, and so that way we are able to go through and kind of talk about, okay, these are the things that we want to keep, and we want to keep doing these things. We want to be able to look at those things that didn't go well. Do we need to keep those things? Is that something that we need to go back through? We need to reestablish a goal for that and be able to go back through and do some work on that goal and make some steps to get to that goal.
Yeah.
Finish that goal. I had a moment there, but just to be able to do that, and so that's the piece that we always look at. And then we do have, because that's one of, especially JC2A, that's one of our major things that we love. We like to do the leadership piece, because on our team, we've been doing leadership for a long time, each one of us, and before I even knew about the John Maxwell team, of course, we were using John Maxwell's information. We were reading his books and we were like, oh yeah, this is awesome, and we were taking those pieces and we were incorporating those into our training, our training modules. And so that helps so much, because then you take that coaching piece and you're able to say, well, if what would happen if you did it this way? Because that's not such an accusatory way of talking about it. And so when you're able to come through as a mentor, as a coach, and talk to someone, that is the best way, because we don't want to ever be the one pointing fingers at each other. Right. And so that especially, it works in JC2A, because not only are we all, we're all different, we're all unique, but we have, all four of us have very strong personalities. And so, you have to be able to talk to people, and you have to be able to say, yeah, that wasn't so cool what you did, or that really, I think we probably could make that statement a different way. And so with our clients, being able to kind of coach with them and talk to them, especially because, it's wonderful to go in. We do a lot of team building as well. And so when you go in, and what we do is we just observe the team for about 30 minutes. Okay. So that first part of the morning is usually everybody gets there, and we use it. We basically talk about, kind of a registering and a meet and greet, and, have some refreshments and get yourself together for the day, right? Before we start team building. And so that's our way of being able to, all of us, we're watching and just watching the team to see how the team interacts. Because that gives you more information, because some people, when they bring us in, they're like, I'm not going to tell you anything about the team. I'm just going to let you see what's going on. Okay?
Yeah.
I'm going to let you see it for yourself. And then you have other clients that they're like, okay, I'm going to tell you about this person and this person and this person. And these are the people that, oh my gosh, And so when they break the team down like that, and they're like, well, these team members right here, they're awesome, and they do everything that they're supposed to do. When they break it down for us like that, 9 times out of 10, when we get there and we observe that team, because we don't tell them that that's what we're doing in that 30 minutes.
Yeah.
But when we get there and we observe that team, 9 times out of 10, what we have found is it's probably the opposite of what they gave us, of what they told us that we see. And we're like, And so, yeah, so that whole coaching piece and just not being confrontational. And so when we get those teams together and we actually start the team building, as we go through, we'll bring up certain things. Like, this morning when I came in and I was introduced to you, you said this. How would you feel if somebody, if someone said that to you? Or there's some people that came in this morning, got their coffee and sat down and didn't speak to one person. And then everybody's like, and they're looking around like, yeah, they always do that, but that may not necessarily mean that person is insociable. That doesn't necessarily mean that. That may mean that person has something on their mind.
Mm-hmm.
That may mean that person is just what we would consider an introvert.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, they need a moment to themselves before they have to deal with the team building. Because when you tell an introvert, sometimes we're going to do team building, that's too much already. And so you gotta, you have to know that, and you have to be really paying attention. And so we have a person on our team that is so good at just engaging people. They never meet a stranger. They engage in people. So that person, that team member probably would go from our team, will go over there and just kind of have a conversation, a real short, brief conversation with that person. And you would be amazed at the information you can get from that little short 2-minute conversation. And so those are some of the things that is important, and making sure that we don't full on confront people, because we know that it causes them to shut down. And so that coaching piece and that mentoring piece is so important.
Absolutely. And I heard so many things in that. I had to make sure they got written down so I didn't forget anything, because I have that tendency myself.
I'm over here writing myself, so I understand.
One of the things I heard in there that's really great was that sometimes you set out a goal, but people are having a challenge getting to that goal, and so you have to break that goal down even further. It was a testament to what we were talking about earlier, how the leader has to be able to see out the 5-year, 10-year, 20-year, whatever year. Right. But sometimes the people on your team have trouble just seeing the 1 month. Exactly. Or even the 1 week. Mm-hmm. And so when you give them like the 1 year goal, they have no idea how they're going to get to that. And if you just leave them and hope for the best, they're not going to figure it out.
Exactly.
And that's not their failure. That's your failure as the leader. Mm-hmm. And so if you want them to get reproducible results, you have to go back with them and say, okay, this is how we're going to break it down. Right. Instead of 1 year, this is what we need to get done in 6 months. This is what we need to get done in 1 month. And in order to get this done in 1 month, this is where I need you to be at the end of the week. Right. And they go, oh, okay. Instead of getting $1 million in sales, I need to make 50 calls this week. I understand how to make 50 calls. I don't know how to make $1 million, right? Yeah. But I can make those 50 calls. It's breaking it down piece by piece so that they can get the results. And each person, you need to be getting results in order to get to that big vision. Mm-hmm. Another one of the things that I was hearing within that whole story was team building. So many times people go into work and they don't do anything to build their team. And some teams go a little bit crazy with how they do team building. They do like this full out excursion, and we're going to have a blast, and we're going to do all these crazy things, which that can be great. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that. But if you have someone who's an introvert on your team, or a couple people who are introverts on your team, that's going to be really difficult for them to do. They're going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm exhausted. This is terrible. Why do you hate me? I just want to sit back at my desk. Please let me go home. Right? Mm-hmm. But it doesn't have to be all out crazy with team building. It could just be a small lunch That could be your team building. It could be a small game at the start of the week that takes like 5 minutes. A lot of teams do that too, but it's something that creates those bonds within the team, and so that people get to know each other. Because when people don't get to know each other, things happen where you have the person who's always silent and you don't know why they're always silent, but you just know that's how they always are, and you just leave it as it is and you go back to your work. And that person, they may not even be an introvert. They might love being with people, but they feel like they're outcasted by everyone there because no one started a conversation with them. And so they want to have the conversations with people. They want to have the friendships, but they feel like an outcast. And so they kind of sit in their own corner and they end up feeling depressed because they're not creating any connections, and they want to be. I used to be one of those people. I actually used to think I was an introvert, and I discovered later on I'm actually an extrovert.
Wow.
And so there's a large period of time where I would be pretty close to alone, or there would be people in the room and I just wasn't connecting with anyone. And I would feel terrible, right? Because deep down I wanted to be connecting with the people. And that's a recipe for disaster right there.
It is. Exactly. And then one of the things I just wrote down over here is that, as a leader also, it's so important to know the people on your team, to understand the people on your team. Because once you know them and you understand them, then that gives you that power to be able to empower them, because if we don't understand, just like you said, about that quiet person that's over there, if we don't understand why they are the way they are, then we can't help them grow. Because if we're like, okay, well, they never talk to anybody, so nobody's going to talk to them. So if nobody ever talks to them, then, okay, so that's a team member wasted right there, because you're not getting the best out of that team member. And so that is so important. And I actually was speaking to someone one day, and they were upset about an activity that had occurred, and they were like, well, you know what, that person came to the activity and they didn't even engage any of the kids. They just sat there and they didn't engage any of the kids during the activity. And I said, did you give them instructions on what you wanted them to do? Did you tell them, okay, this is why we're here today, we're going to do this, this, and this? Or did you just tell them that I need some people here to supervise? Because if you just said, I need people here to supervise, then I'm going to stand back. You have people that I'm going to stand back, I'm going to supervise, and I will make sure that nobody's doing anything that they should not be doing. Right? And so, I was like, yeah, you have to do that. You have to give clear instructions. And so then I kind of started talking about the generational diversity. And I started kind of talking about, is this person that you were talking about, are they a millennial? Because if they are, they're going to do what, depending on who they are, if you didn't give them clear instructions, then you're going to get what you get, right?
Yeah.
And so that person was like, I don't have time to be figuring all this stuff out, and I was like, yeah, you need to make time, because if you don't meet people on your team where they are, you'll never get the desired results from them, and so that is so important. Again, because I had written that down about, we just need to know who every member of the team is and make them know that they are important as well. Because
absolutely,
everybody brings something to the team.
Exactly, 100%. And along with that, one thing that I think was brilliant in what you said is the person said, I don't have time to do that. And that is one of the biggest problems in leadership, is people think that they don't have the time to do this, and so they end up doing something else or taking on more work than they should be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, they basically prevent the whole team from being able to create high level results. And so if they kind of misassociate the cost, right? They think like, if I spend 3 hours teaching this person, right, I don't have time to spend 3 hours teaching this person. But then what ends up happening is you take on 20 hours of work doing what you didn't teach them to do.
Wow. Yeah.
Exactly. Plus, right, on top of that, now you have someone who's not being utilized well. And because they're not being utilized well, they're not able to create monumental results. And because they're not able to create monumental results that deep down they know they can be making, they feel disempowered. And because they feel disempowered, they end up feeling negative about the team, and that negativity spreads. And it's this self-repeating circle going on.
Exactly. You just hit the nail on the head, because that is so important, because if we don't listen to people, we don't give people a voice and give them an opportunity to tell us what they're thinking, then we do miss out on so much. Because I have a person on my team that, and I noticed this because I actually, go into the system and, do audits on the system and things. But I noticed that I have a person on my team that we do victim notifications for work, right? And what I noticed on there was that she was actually going back through the whole month and making sure that nothing was missed. Because I kept thinking, I was like, okay, every time I come in here to do an audit, I never find anything, right? We can't possibly be that perfect. But what I found out when I started looking at it, she was actually going back every week, and she was going in and fixing the discrepancies. And so when I pointed it out, and I told her in a meeting, and I said, you know what, I just appreciate you so much for what you do, because that does take a lot of my time going through and auditing that system. And it makes me feel good to be able to look at that system and know that I'm not going to find discrepancies. And if I do find one or two, it's okay, because I know you've been working hard on it, and that in itself, somebody else said, well, what is she doing? And so she started telling them what she was doing. And so it was like, well, you don't have to do the whole month. I'll do this week. I'll do the first week. You do that. And so they were able amongst themselves to fix that, and go back and say, we got you, Miss Applin, we got you. And we're going to make sure that this report is, doesn't have any discrepancies. And so that is a great example, because if you're not paying attention to what your people are doing and you don't see it, and when you don't recognize it, then, eventually that person could have been like, you know what, I do all this work and nobody ever says anything,
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but now that's like one of her things when she introduces herself, in a group of setting, that's one of her things. She's like, I'm the one that I go back and I audit reports, and that's what my skill is. And she's like, yeah.
Yeah. What I love about that is, because as a leader, you're being vigilant and you're looking for things to praise, right? You found something to praise, and now that person gets to wear that as a badge of honor. Like, I got recognized for this. And on top of that, they want to do better work. Plus, when everyone else saw that they got recognized, they're like, hold on, wait, this person got recognized? How'd they get recognized? I want to get recognized too. Like, hey, how can I get some of that? Right? Yeah. And everyone discovered a way that they can do things better, because they wanted the praise, because you were looking to point out something good.
Yeah. And that's one of those things that I learned from another leader, watching someone else, because like I said, we can get so stuck in our own task and what we're doing, what we have to get done, that if we're not careful and we're not paying attention, that we will miss important things like that. And so, yeah, that is important. And like with JC2A, what we do is we actually we have a network of businesses that we work with. And so with that, we're able to go through and, like, if if our clients have a specific need and it's not a leadership consulting need, we're like, you know what, I have this business card for you that I'm gonna introduce you to this business owner right here because they do a great job with this piece. And that is one of those things that when we are able to recognize each other as businesses and understand that every business brings something unique and important to the table, we give everybody an opportunity, because we can't do everything. But the one thing that JC2A knows is that if we're able to put them in contact with another good business that can help them meet some needs in some other areas, we know that when that client needs something else, they're going to remember JC2A and they're going to come back to JC2A and talk to us about, what they need. And so that is so important, because we have to remember as business owners that we don't have to put out somebody else's light to make ours shine brighter. And that is so important, because I see it all the time, on social media. Oh my gosh, it's horrible sometimes, to watch how people mistreat people, but my thing is with that is that we want people to have a positive experience. And if we know of another business that can help them have that positive experience, then that is how we're going to operate, because we have our own set of values, and we have our own mission. And so we want to make sure that we are adding value to people, and that we're leaving them better than the way we found them.
Absolutely. I love that. It's one of those things where it's funny, wonderful, and sad how just a little bit of goodwill can go a long way. And so many people don't utilize that to their advantage, especially in leadership, because it doesn't take a lot of goodwill to gain the goodwill of other people.
Right.
It just takes a little bit of goodwill. Here and there, just sprinkle it, and then all of a sudden that goodwill continues to come back to you.
Right.
Now, one of the interesting things you commented on there was that you guys are a values-based business. What I would love to hear from you is how you see the values of your business create reproducible, monumental results.
Well, one thing is, like I said earlier, when I said it on a personal level about the fact that, we have to know ourselves, right? And so one of the things when JC2A, when we decided, because we actually, in our regular jobs, we were out and we would train together a lot, or we would go and do something pro bono for somebody else, and people were just like, when are y'all gonna take this to the next level, And so we had been talking about the business, and bringing the business online, and the issue was, we were all busy, and we were like, we just don't know if we're going to have time for this. And so we actually started working with the Holden Group, which is a consulting firm also. But what he did with us, he brought us together. We just sat down. We had a brainstorming session. We talked about our mission. We talked about our values. And we talked about that when people see us, we want them to see those values in us. And so he helped us to he actually put it on our website. He gave us a wonderful exercise to go through to learn, so we can pull out our most important values, because, we have lots of values.
Oh, yeah.
So one of the things is that we just wanted to be able, because when we do business, our values, because there may be some clients that approach us that we may not necessarily be the best fit for. And it's not necessarily about how much money that they have to offer. It's not about, what their subject matter is, but sometimes because of our values, because of who we are and who we've determined ourselves to be, then we are able to, because if our hearts aren't in it, we're not able to give them the best of us. We're not able to give them the best product. And so what we want to do is to be able to give people what they ask for. And so based on our values, you know, we believe in differences. We believe in you know, understanding people, gaining insight. We believe in, you know, just working together, because that's the most important piece, because that's what leadership does, right? It helps people to learn to work together, right? And then we value the development of people, of efficiency, you know, of helping people to do what they do best. And so that is so important, just knowing who JC2A is, as four people coming together, pulling ourselves together. And what we found is that a lot of our values were the same, you know, and that we were able to say yes, because these are the type of people that we want to attract. So it's that law of attraction, right? So who you are is who you attract. And so that was so important to us. And that's on our, if you go to our website, you'll see it's on the forefront of our website about what are our values and what do we appreciate and what do we believe in. And that helps us to be able to go through, you know, and be able to develop the best product possible for individuals. And so that's one of the major pieces. And I hope I answered your question, because I think I might have gone on from the tangent there. But,
No,
but yeah,
you answered it for
who
me.
you are. Yeah, just knowing who you are and being able to give the best product possible.
Absolutely. And it's not just knowing who you are, but in defining those values, you're also determining who you are not.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that there's anything wrong with who you are not. It just happens to be that's just not who you are. And so many times in the business world, so many times with leaders, people haven't defined what their values are. And in not defining what their values are, they haven't defined what their values are not either. And because of that, they take on whatever work is given to them.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times they take it on in, I would call this like a half value.
Right.
Like, I want to do great work, and so they asked me to do this work, so I'm going to do great work.
Right.
But that isn't really a full value. Like, what is great work to you? If you haven't defined what great work is, you could end up taking on this work, do it well, and hate every single second of it. And because you hate every single second of it, you're not actually doing a great job. You're doing a good, possibly mediocre, just subpar job, so it gets by.
Exactly.
Right? And so you have to really look at what are your values, what are the values we want the business to represent, and what are the values of the different people on my team.
Right.
Because, and that was another thing, you barely briefed over it, but you mentioned that you had the same values as different people on your team.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so important, that you guys value similar things. It doesn't have to be the exact same thing, but they do have to be similar. Because if they're not similar, it's going to be really difficult to get along with each other. And I've seen this done. I've seen this between different teams in the corporate world, where you've got a sales team whose values getting the client no matter what, and you see the accounting team value getting things done on the contract well.
Right.
And then what happens when that doesn't happen? I had I saw this in a contract. The sales team had sold an extremely high value customer. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars contract. And in the contract, they had a net 6 months to pay.
Oh.
6 months to pay the bill before they had to pay anything. because the
Wow.
sales team was willing to sell at any cost,
Oh,
right? And then on top of that, after that 6 months, they didn't pay it.
wow.
And the sales team went ahead and got another contract with that same client with the same kind of terms.
Wow.
So what you have are two teams internally battling each other. One saying we need to get the client, the other one saying no, we need to make sure they pay us,
Yeah.
right? And you have these conflicting things happening, and it led to problems.
Hmm.
Now,
Exactly.
yeah,
Oh,
when things were brought back together and figured out, we were able to solve these things, and eventually we determined that client was just not a good client to keep. But we had to determine, what is a good client to keep? What is that value? What is it we value in a client to determine whether we keep them or not?
right. Yeah, because that was what I was going to say, because, and I did mention this earlier, because we know that there's some business that we just need to turn down, that we just not gonna, we're not going to be able to do that. And so that is another piece, because like you said, some businesses get so caught up, and we just got to have business. We got to have business. We got to have business. We got to have money coming in, that we are not being true to who our company is. And we're not doing what we need to do to be able to sustain who our company is. Because if you take on a client that that you don't necessarily fit with, just like you said, you're going to end up giving them average, maybe so product, right? And so what happens? That person is going to come to your website. Now they're going to give you a review, and it's going to be a bad review. Probably, because they're like, well, we paid them all this money and they didn't do this and they didn't do what they said. And we've heard so many other people say that they do this. And so that is the piece that is so important, because sometimes you got to turn down that rather large contract because that's just not a fit. And so that goes back to what you said about what we do value and what we don't value,
Exactly.
and what we don't want to do. And so that is so important.
And in
Definitely.
taking that kind of business on,
Mhm.
one, you're not able to produce the repeatable monumental results. Two,
Exactly.
you're destroying your brand, which prevents opportunities to create more reproducible monumental results. So
Right.
in defining your values and sticking to them, you are creating more reproducible monumental results, because you said the law of attraction. You're attracting the right kinds of people that you want to be coming, and you're pushing away the people that could damage your ability to create reproducible monumental results.
Exactly. Definitely. So yeah, because when we're in business, our goal, no matter what, even though we want to make money, we're serving people. And so when you're serving people, you want to maximize, the opportunity. You want to be able to influence in the best manner that you can influence. And you want that to be a positive experience. And so in order to do that, you have to know. You have to know who your business is. You got to know what the values are and what we are willing to do and what we are not willing to do.
Absolutely, 100%. Now, Lolita,
Yeah.
for anyone who's looking to be able to get a hold of you, what are some of the best ways for them to be able to do that?
Okay, so our website is www.jc2allc.com. We also have a Facebook page, and that's just JC2A LLC as well. Those are the best ways to get in touch with us, because no matter if you click on either one of those, the website or the Facebook page, then you will find us there. We're also on Instagram and Twitter, and all of those are at JC2A LLC. So
Wonderful.
definitely.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. And then I know that you've got a gift for the people who are here today. So what is that gift?
Okay, so our gift is a free coaching session a coaching or mentoring session. And so we can do that, virtually, or we can do that in person. It just depends. And so we'll be glad to help people to move towards their goals. As I was talking earlier, developing goals. So we want to establish goals. We want to equip people, and we want to empower people. And so that is what we're going to offer.
That is absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for that. Now, one last thing for everyone who's here, if you had to leave them with just one thing today for generating reproducible monumental results, what would that one thing be?
That would be being genuine, authentic, and knowing your purpose and knowing your goal, so that you can produce the best possible product and give people the best of yourself.
Absolutely. I love that. That is absolutely phenomenal. And with that, that is going to wrap up the first session of day 3 of the Legendary Leadership Summit. This has been fantastic so far, Lalita. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you for inviting me. I so appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much.